Hey guys, so just had a long night, staying up, watching the Australian Grand Prix. This is my first Australian Grand Prix, so I've never experienced a race at this time being a fan. We haven't had Australia or Japan in about 2-3 years, so this time, like a race at this time is just not something I'm used to. But I wanted to stay up for it, and I actually my plan was to watch it here at the house. Me and my girlfriend were gonna stay up and watch it, but my friends ended up convincing us to go out, and so we watched it. I watched it at a bar, and it was actually kind of cool because I don't have too many friends that watch F1 as well, but I met some guys there they had like one TV that was on the F1 race, and this one dude was watching intensely, and he was like, does anybody else care about this? And I like perked up, and I was like, I do. Like I love F1. And then of course it's like there's that brief moment where it's like you're trying to gauge how much of an F1 fan they are, and it was fun. It was fun. He was pulling for Ferrari. I'm a Red Bull fan, so we had a little fun banter back and forth. He was a little too excited when Max retired from the race. I didn't appreciate that, but yeah, let's dig into it. First, I just want to like give my brief thoughts, like overarching thoughts on the race. I think compared to the first two races, it was not as exciting, I would say. Whenever you have your two championship contenders in Max and Charles racing like they were in the first two races, that's what you're looking for. That's what everyone's hoping for in F1 with the new regulations. Like it was perfect. It was perfect, those first two races. Even having a lot of midfield battles, and you had that here. I think the race was definitely improved because of the new cars. I don't think we would have had as good of a race with the old cars. But yeah, overall it was a good race. I would rate it maybe a 6 out of 10. I was watching it at the bar, so I didn't get as much insight into everything that was going on as much as I normally would. I did watch the race in 30 minutes, or race in 30 on F1 TV this morning, and I watched part of the F1 live stream, F1 post-race live stream, which was actually pretty funny. I don't know if y'all haven't seen it, there's a part of it where Lando and Alex are both on the show at the same time, and they're just like gold. Like they're just golden. Like them two together, their conversation back and forth, like it's just they stole the show basically for a good like 10 minutes, which was fun to see. But yeah, anyways, like I was saying earlier, the race, I would say, like I said, about 6 out of 10. I'm curious what y'all think about that. Like, so if you have a differing opinion, put it down in the comments. But yeah, let's kind of hop into where I feel like everyone kind of shook out. Well, we know where everyone shook out. You can go see the classification online. But I mean, let's kind of dig in, and I'll give some of my thoughts on what happened during the race. So you have in last, the bottom three drivers didn't finish the race. Carlos Sainz with Ferrari. I mean, what a sucky weekend for him, really. Ferrari's car seems the more reliable. Obviously, the more reliable. Red Bull's car is not reliable at all right now. But I mean, it feels the more forgiving car. It feels the more dynamic car. Red Bull's seems like on the limit. It seems a little more edgy, a little more hairy. I think hairy is the good word for Red Bull's car right now. It seems like it has the pace. It's just not as locked in. It's not as, man, I'm struggling for the word, but I think you know what I mean. The Red Bull car seems a little bit harder to handle at times. And Carlos just, he missed a huge opportunity this weekend. With qualifying, he didn't do very well in qualifying. I think he finished eighth or ninth in qualifying. I think he had one lap that got cut short because of a yellow or red flag. I can't necessarily remember off the top of my head right now, but and then in the race, he had a bad start and fell back and was trying to do a little too much too early and didn't have the tire grip to make it happen going into that chicane, and went into the grass, and that grass looks slippery. And probably if he would have not tried to turn in the grass, if he was able to keep it straight, he might have been able to actually brake once he hit the pavement again, but he wasn't able to, and nearly took out Joe, which would have been wild. But luckily he didn't. Luckily he just got stuck in the gravel, and just really, really disappointing weekend for Carlos. And then speaking of disappointing weekends, we have Sebastian next. And yeah, man, coming off missing the first two races because of COVID, you can't have a worse start to the season. Like, poor Sebastian. I mean, he's been struggling for the past. He struggled all last year. I would say with that Aston Martin car, he just never seemed to find it. I think there was like one race, like in Monaco, that he actually did really well. Did he get a podium? I think. Am I misremembering? I don't know, but I think he did really well in Monaco last year. But other than that, he was struggling. I don't think he ever really established his dominance over Lance, and having such a poor start to the season, not missing the first two races, and then coming in and trying to figure out the car with this race. In this race, it just, I think his power unit went out in the first two practices, and then did he wreck in the third practice? And then I think he, in qualifying, I can't remember in qualifying if he wrecked like again. I don't know. It was just a really bad weekend. And then of course in the race, at a very weird spot too, like that's not I think it was like turn 4. I don't know. I may be way off on that. I think I'm just like trying to remember what the broadcast was saying off the top of my head. I think it was like turn 4, a place that most people don't, it's pretty straightforward. He, kind of went up on the curb a little bit too much and spun out and hit the wall. And, man, I feel bad for the dude, 4-time world champ, just kind of struggling to find his footing in this new car. And then of course, in 18th, we have Max. I think he got as much out of the car in qualifying as he could have to get second. And I think in the race, he was doing about as much as he could too. He said it, like, the Red Bull car, like I said, is just not as put together as the Ferrari car is. And he just couldn't find the tires the entire time. But he was gonna, he was managing a pretty easy P2, and the power unit, the Red Bull power unit, once again showing it's not very reliable at all. And you really wonder, it, like, Mercedes is off the pace. They just are, but they're reliable. And you're wondering, like, well, Mercedes might have that extra pace, but they know they may sacrifice some of their reliability. And that's just the game you have to play. You have to pick and choose your battles and take the advantages that you want to take. And Mercedes right now is, they're taking advantage of Red Bull right now. Like, Red Bull should be clear. It should be Ferrari at the very top, and then Red Bull second, and then it should be a big gap to Mercedes. That's what it should be right now, and it's not. Red Bull have they have just fumbled so many points already this season, and it's the gap between them and Mercedes is only going to get smaller. That's my opinion. I think Mercedes is going to figure it out in the next, in this first half of the season, and if Red Bull don't really, take advantage of the situation right now and stack up some points at the first half of the season, I could really see Red Bull finishing third in this in the constructors this year. I mean, I just could. It's really disappointing because that Red Bull car seems at times faster than the Ferrari, even though the Ferrari seems a little more put together and stable. And then in 17th, I mean, we're at the bottom, so these are all disappointing performances, but, if it was like Williams and the Williams cars and the Aston Martins down here, we would kind of understand, but Fernando in 17th, I mean, was flying in quali, flying. That Alpine looks like it has some serious pace, and I really, I had a look. Like, I don't know what everyone else's expectations were this season for Alpine, but I just didn't expect that much out of them, to be honest with you. I think because I'm a newer fan, I just haven't seen Alpine really dominate ever. And so I just had kind of low expectations for them. But it seems like there's something there in that car. I can't really remember like the race pace. I'm trying to but I'm pretty certain that Fernando for a moment there had was running in the top of the midfield during the race. But yeah, disappointing race for Fernando, finishing 17th. That car had a lot more in it than 17th. Okay, so next we have Latifi in 16th. Second to last of the drivers that actually finished the race. I don't know, man. Latifi, I'm almost done with Latifi. Like, seriously, I almost have no more. I have no more. What's the word? I have no more faith in him. It seems he's a pay driver, of course, and so he's in the sport for one reason. He's not the most talented. He shows sparks here and there sometimes. But this new car, he just can't figure it out with this new car. And it wasn't his fault in qualifying. It was a weird situation. Like, I'm not sure what he was doing, letting Lance pass and then trying to pass him again, overtake him again. That didn't really make sense. It wasn't his fault. Like, Lance just was staring. He was staring at that mirror, at his right-hand mirror, and just ran straight into Latifi's car, into his rear left wheel, and just destroyed Latifi's car. I mean, that the damage that Williams has gone through, and Aston Martin, the damage that they have endured the past 2 weekends, immense damage to their, to the salary, not the salary cap, the budget cap, not the not the salary cap. It's kind of the same thing, but that's what we have in the States for professional football teams. They have a salary cap, what they can spend on players. I'm not sure if soccer has that in Europe, or just anywhere in the world. I don't think it does. I think that's why certain teams have all the best players. But anyway, but yeah, Latifi, that's where you expect him to be, kind of at the bottom. He's a cool guy. I will say I laugh the most at him at his radio calls after he gets in a wreck. He's always like, "Oh man, oh oh man, he wrecked into me. That wasn't my, oh man, that's so much damage. That's kind of how he, that's kind of how he talks. And I don't know, it's funny the way he, like you would just expect in a very highly intense situation where millions of dollars are on the line, and you've just kind of ruined your weekend and potentially ruined your weekend, and you're kind of forcing your crew back in the pits to like work through the night to get your car. Like his reactions are just kind of humorous. I'm sorry for any Latifi fans if I'm stepping on toes. I don't mean that. I'm just not a big fan of him. Like he's a cool guy. Like he's probably one of the, I don't know. He's a high character guy. It's just I don't see anything in him like as a potential like race winning F1 driver. It's just not. So I just don't have much like grace for him. All right, so after Latifi we have Yuki, and Yuki, the AlphaTauri just doesn't seem to like have the outright pace that they did last year. Because I mean, where did Pierre finish 9th? I mean, that's about, I mean, I guess that's last week too, but like, or last race, 9th is where you want Pierre for the AlphaTauri. Like Pierre, I think, is genuinely getting the most out of that car almost every weekend. Pierre is really, really solid, and I think he deserves potentially another shot at the primary team for Red Bull Racing. But back to Yuki, 15th. I don't know. It's kind of disappointing. You would hope that Yuki, a lot of people say Yuki has a lot of potential. You would be hoping that Yuki would be closer to Pierre. I'm not sure if he had some difficulties. I really apologize because, like I said, I watched at the bar. There's some little nuances that that I'm missing, and I apologize for that. So after Yuki, we have Kevin and then Mick for Haas. I mean, congrats to Mick. Seriously, like there was a few times where he got past Kevin. I think he out-qualified Kevin for the first time, this season, which is huge. I've been critical of Mick in the past, not feeling like he is really like shown his true skill, and I think he really has stepped up this weekend, and I'm impressed. I hold Kevin in high regards, Kevin Magnussen, and so to see Mick up there out qualifying Kevin, finishing in front of Kevin, and I think Mick actually had went off the track as well, so he may have been even higher than that if he wouldn't have had that little spin. So after Mick, we have Lance Stroll in 12th, which I think is actually, like, for Aston, that car is not good. And for them to finish above the Haas and the AlphaTauri, I think that's really positive. I mean, of course, you have Red Bull and Ferrari both have a car out, so that helps, that helps your position. But man, Lance, like, what he did in qualifying is unforgivable. I mean, like, I play the F1 game on my PlayStation sometimes, and I have like the little wheel and everything. And I'll admit it, like, if you ever do one of those like full weekends where you actually like practice and do qualifying, and you have to manage on the track, like get out of the racing line and then know how to like manage the cars around you, and if they're on a flying lap or not, it's really hard. It is really difficult. And so, but these are professional F1 drivers. This is all they do, and they get paid millions of dollars a year to do this. And the cars weren't even going full speed. Like, this was like this could have been so easily avoidable, so easily avoided, and it's just disappointing, and the fact that it was Lance and Latifi, two pay drivers, it just, now I really think now with the cost cap, I really think that these teams, they're forced to not spend as much money. Okay, obviously they're spending money in different ways to like kind of get around that with like buildings and things, but I really think we might see soon a real move away from pay drivers. I really could see it. The teams don't need as much money anymore, and when you have drivers making mistakes like that, you can't afford those mistakes. You just can't. That's a lot of money that gone from their cost, from the amount of money they can spend in the year. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what kind of repercussions Lance could have for that, but they should be substantial, I think. Okay, in 11th you have Guan Yu, and the Alfa Romeo has continued to impress. I mean, Haas was really impressive the first two races, obviously, and Alfa Romeo was as well, but Haas took a back step this weekend, and I think a lot of people expected that. Even Haas, like they kind of were, you know, giving everyone like realistic expectations when it came to where they were going to be, you know, in the future going forward, because they don't upgrade their car like other teams do. But Guan Yu, a rookie, consistently, I think he's been around like 8 to 12, like in that range, which is like super good considering Valtteri finished 8th in the same car. Guan Yu is 3 positions away. I think that's really solid. And I watched F2 like briefly, not briefly is not the right word, like sparingly, I think is the right word. And I saw like really big like sparks from Guan Yu in F2, but I got the vibe from a lot of other like people in the media that Guan Yu may not really have what it takes in F1, that he more just has that Chinese money behind him. But I think he's proving people wrong. And obviously that Alfa Romeo is an actual decent car, but it still takes a lot of galls to like be where he's at. And so after Guan Yu, we have probably the drive. I don't know if he was the driver of the day. He should have been for sure. Alex Albon in 10th. I mean, what a performance. I think he went the whole race without stopping until like the last 2 laps. And the only reason he pitted was because he had to, because of the rule. You have to at least pit once, and you know, you have to change tires is what I'm trying to say. The rule is you have to at least drive on 2 different tire compounds, I think, during the race. I think that's right. Correct me if I'm wrong. Sometimes I say things like I know them, and I could be completely wrong. But almost a no stopper. Like you can't do that. You can't do a no stop. But he almost pulled it off. And Alex is just proving every race why he should be in F1. And I'm happy. I like Alex. I think he has a lot of talent. I think he was in he was kind of thrown into the lion's den at Red Bull, and so I'm really happy to see him back in F1. And I think, look, he's right under Pierre, and I would say that AlphaTauri is a way better car. It seems like Williams kind of figured it, like that the tire situation really suited them in this race, and I think the track also did. But props off to Alex. I mean, what a stud! What a great drive. And then I've already talked about Pierre, but Pierre finished 9th, and like I said earlier, like great solid drive from Pierre. He improved 2 spots. Yeah, I kind of already talked about him. So let's move on to 8th. Valtteri Bottas in 8th. Yeah, I think that's what you would want. I mean, he improved 4 spots from qualifying. I don't remember I mean, that must mean that he got out. He didn't get into Q3, obviously, but that must have been he made it to Q2 and then didn't make the cut. So he must have finished. He must have started 12th in the race. But yeah, I'm really happy for Valtteri. I'm so glad that Alpha is giving him a decent car, and a lot of people, gave him a lot of slack for not really competing with Lewis, but Lewis is one of the greatest of all time. And yeah, so I think congrats to Valtteri, another solid race from him, especially 8th, especially when McLaren had such a good weekend. I think that's really impressive. And so then after Valtteri in 8th, you have Esteban in 7th. Like I said, the Alpine had really good pace this weekend, and I'm really hoping they continue this. I think it's really good for the 4th constructor to really, or true constructor, you know what I mean? Like one of the only other engine providers being up there at the top. I think it's really good for the sport. Their car's kind of ugly. It's kind of growing on me a little bit, but that, that doesn't really matter. Esteban, another solid race, I would say, for Esteban. And then in 5th and 6th, you have Lando and Daniel. I'm happy for them. They were struggling the first 2 races, and according to Lando, this is really just a matter of their car, being a better fit at this track, and yeah, Lando also said that do not expect this to continue. They could be back, not getting into Q3 next weekend. Not next weekend. I don't think it's next weekend. Maybe it is. I forget. But I think they're going to Imola, but I don't know if it was next weekend. But yeah, Daniel and Lando had a kind of like a bad start, because he qualified 4th and had a bad start. Lewis at the start jumped Sergio, and George jumped Lando. So Lando got pushed down to 6th. He made one spot back up, and finished 5th. Daniel finished 6th. I'm happy for Daniel. He had some struggles last year. Then he won his race, and the first two races just were very underwhelming, and so I'm happy to see McLaren there again. And then in 3rd and 4th, you have George and Lewis. Lewis had a really good start. Lewis had a solid start, jumping Sergio. Sergio had a good start. He just got behind Max on the outside of turn 1, and Lewis got on the inside and just kind of positioned his car in a way where Sergio couldn't get around him. And so props to Lewis for that move. That was awesome. And then Lewis, kind of managed his race from there on, and could have easily, had the podium where George finished in 3rd. George got lucky a few times, also had a good start. And so, yeah, I think George is doing exactly what Mercedes expected him to do and what I expected him to do. And like I said, he got lucky a few times, but pulled out a podium for Mercedes. And like I said, Mercedes is really being consistent, and they're up there in the Constructors' Championship, and Red Bull is not. So Red Bull needs to step it up. And then talking about Red Bull, you have Sergio in 2nd, and Sergio is showing what he's made of. And I think obviously that Red Bull is the 2nd fastest car, and with Max and Carlos out of the race, I think you would hope Sergio would be able to, take that 2nd position. And he had a good race. And I'm happy for him. I think Sergio deserves these podiums. And then we have Charles in 1st, and once again, just flawless drive, qualifying 1st, and then doing nothing wrong the entire race. I would have loved to see Charles and Max duke it out again, but that's just sadly not what happened. I'm sure we'll see it in the near future, but congrats to Charles. He's, he with Carlos not finishing the race, I think he he took a pretty good lead in the Drivers' Championship with this P1. So congrats to Charles. I think obviously he's a front runner now, the clear front runner for the championship. And yeah, I'm happy for him. I think Charles deserves this championship if he ends up getting it. But yeah, like I said earlier, overall, I think the race was a really solid race. It wasn't the most exciting, I don't think. I didn't realize Australia was more of like a street circuit. It probably is more now than it was. And it was very hairy. Like the whole race was very squirrely, with the wrecks and people spinning out and everything. It had its moments, but I think overall it wasn't as exciting as the first two races. But this season of F1 is still super exciting, and I'm super stoked for the rest of this season. So yeah, that was my thoughts on the 2022 Australian Grand Prix. And yeah, leave a like, leave a comment, your thoughts on this video, and subscribe if you like these. And yeah, I'll talk to y'all after next race. All right, bye.